Hey guys, and welcome back to another presentation. This week I'll be doing lenses, something that I'm not very familiar with, so I decided to challenge myself this week. So what did I do, or what do I know about lenses? I use this page just to write down basic stuff that I know. I know how they're used in order to take the image. I'm familiar with two lenses. I'm familiar with the basic kit lens, 18 to 55 millimeter, which is a zoom lens here. And then I'm also familiar with the prime 50mm lens. I also know that you should change your lens depending on where you're shooting and what you're shooting in order to fit maybe a model's body type, or you might have to use a lower aperture in order to get more light at nighttime. So lenses, how they work. One of the components is a convex lens, which is used to refract the light, which allows the light to converge and flipped by the sensor, because if you look through a lens without the camera, it actually shows the image, and so it hits, flips the image. It's also used, you also use a concave lens, which different color light has different focal points. So red light would have a longer focal point than blue light. And then the concave lens is pretty much used to make sure that they all reach the same focal point on the sensor. Lenses will use both of these lenses in order to correct the color aberration and the chromatic aberration, and to ensure that all light hits the same focal point. Information I need to remember when filming, because focal length is pretty much the millimeter. The lower the number, the wider the shot, and the higher the number, the more it is zoomed in. You know what I mean? Basic. The higher the focal length, the shallower the depth of field becomes. So the more you zoom in, the more the background will become blurry, and the more bokeh you can achieve. Aperture allows a more open aperture allows more light into the lens and can make the background more blurry if you're trying to achieve that shot and focus on the foreground. The more you can open up the aperture, the more light you can let in. Therefore, a lens with a lower aperture has a better capacity to film in low light. So if you were going to shoot outside with a f.4 or an f4, sort of like this lens here, you wouldn't get enough light at nighttime. So you'd be better off using something like an f2 or an f2.8, a lot faster lens, essentially. Lenses with higher apertures used to film in low light. Oh yeah, so if I was to film this in low light, I would need to use the ISO in order to boost the light of the image, which can also create a lot more noise, which is something that I wouldn't want to have in my NLA or in my grad project. There's three types of sensors. There's a full frame sensor, which is used, this camera here, which is Canon 60D. It has a full sensor, and then you'd also have crop sensors and micro four thirds. Now I've included a little diagram here of what the croppage factor usually is. So to achieve a 35mm shot, so if you have zoomed in on this lens about 35 milliliters, to shoot that on a crop sensor, a camera with a crop sensor, I would have to divide the ML, the zoom factor, by the crop factor. So if I was to film a shot that zoomed in 35 milliliters, I don't think I'm saying that right. If I was to shoot a shot that was 35 here, and then try to get the same shot on a camera with a crop sensor, I would have to zoom into 24 milliliters, or 24 milliliters. What I've practiced, so I only have two lenses that are available to me, so I alternated between the 50mm prime lens and the kit lens. So here's my little presentation here's my little exercise for this week. Here are my references for this week. And thank you very much for listening.